If you're tired of watching the mainstream media protect its own, buckle up because today we're looking into how the New York Times is shamelessly spinning the federal investigation into New York Attorney General Letitia James. Yep, the same Letitia James who made it her mission to bring down Donald Trump is now facing a federal referral for alleged mortgage fraud, and suddenly the media wants to pretend it's just politics. But thanks to forensic accountant and fraud expert Sam Antar, we've got receipts, literal documents, public records, and the New York Times wants you to ignore all of it. Let's get into it. Welcome to Nellie Miranda. Before we get into today's video, please make sure you like and subscribe as it really helps support the channel. Now, here's the core of the issue. Letitia James allegedly claimed a Virginia property as her primary residence in order to qualify for a low-rate mortgage. But public records, including her own filings in New York, shows that she was actively living and working full-time in Manhattan during that same period. We're talking government documents, her AG schedule, public appearances, state tax filings, even power of attorney forms granting her parents the right to manage the same property she swore she lived in. And still, the New York Times managed to write a full-length profile piece that completely ignores all of these facts. No mention of the document, no analysis of the fraud, no breakdown of the FHFA referral, just vibes and victimhood. Their narrative is that Letitia James is a courageous Black woman who's under political attack from Trump loyalists and right-wing trolls. In other words, they'd rather cry racism than investigate the fraud. Now let's pause here. Can you imagine if a Trump official had signed off on a fraudulent mortgage deal while in office, then had the audacity to dodge questions using a media firewall? You'd have CNN, MSNBC, and The View staging a week-long meltdown. But with Letitia James, the media performs narrative laundering. They clean up her image while quietly ignoring the evidence. So let me walk you through a story the New York Times tried to frame as political retribution. But the facts, they tell a completely different story. So on June 11th, the New York Times published a piece suggesting that the criminal investigation into New York Attorney General Letitia James is just another chapter in Trump's so-called revenge tour. So today, I'm going to read you exactly what the Times says, and then I'm going to show you what the evidence actually proves. The Times opens with this. The episode in Westchester last month nearly encapsulated the role Ms. James has staked out in recent years as one of Mr. Trump's chief antagonists, and the risk of having done so. The audience member was referring to allegations that have become the subject of a criminal investigation by Mr. Trump's Justice Department, whose leaders have rewarded the president's allies and targeted his foes. Now pause. Here's what the evidence actually says. The criminal referral didn't come from Trump's DOJ. It came from Bill Pulte on April 14, 2025. That's before any retribution narrative even existed. And Pulte got his information from public land records, property documents, and government filings published by forensic investigator Sam Antar at White Collar Fraud. The allegations are that James falsified documents to get better loan terms, government-backed assistance, and falsely declared a home she never intended to live in as her primary residence. This is not politics. That's mortgage fraud. The Times goes on and says, while securing a loan for the Virginia house, Ms. James signed a form giving her niece power of attorney. On that form, she said that she would use the house as a principal residence, which she has not done, leading to the fraud allegations. So basically, they frame it like it's a casual checkbox. But this wasn't just a form. It was a sworn declaration signed under penalty of perjury and recorded in the land records of Virginia on August 17th, 2023. James didn't just attest. She wrote in caps, "I hereby declare that I intend to occupy this property as my principal residence." But get this, just 15 days earlier, she had emailed her mortgage broker with this bombshell. And she says, "This property will not be my primary residence. It will be Shamisa's primary residence." Like, that is not a mistake. That's intent. And under federal law 18 U.S. Code 1014, the crime is making a knowingly false statement on a federally connected mortgage application. The law doesn't care if the mortgage required residency. It doesn't care if the loan was approved. It doesn't even care if anyone lost money. The minute Letitia James signed that document knowing it was false, the crime was complete. Now, here's what the Times doesn't tell you at all. Two of Letitia James' own staff attorneys, senior government officials, witnessed her signing that false document. Jennifer Levy, her first deputy attorney general, and Sharona Parchment, another top lawyer from her office. Both women signed under penalty of perjury that they witnessed James execute a legal document stating that she intended to live in Virginia just 2 weeks after she told her broker that she never would. So let that sink in. Two prosecutors from New York's AG office signed off on a lie. They weren't duped, they were present, and if this case goes to trial, there'll be key witnesses or co-conspirators. The Times suggests that any investigation is speculative, maybe even politically driven, but the evidence, it says otherwise. A federal grand jury has already been convened in Virginia. The FBI is actively investigating in New York. U.S. Attorney nominee Eric Seibert will inherit a case filled with ironclad documentation and government witnesses. This isn't about politics. This is about whether the law applies equally, even to Letitia James. The Times even tried to spin one of the most damning pieces of evidence as some kind of defense. They wrote, Mr. Lowell sent the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi documents showing that Ms. James had expressly told the mortgage broker that she would not use the property as a primary residence. The document also showed that the broker had responded to acknowledge that Ms. James would not be living there. Wait, what? That is not a defense. That's proof that she knew the statement was false when she signed it. So her own attorney confirmed to federal prosecutors that she lied under oath in a recorded public document. Like, this is not a misunderstanding. This is an admission of guilt. The Times claims that James has been consistent in saying her Brooklyn property has 4 units. They said, quote, Mr. Pulte and others have also accused Ms. James of misrepresenting the number of living units in the Brooklyn home, which they said could allow her to receive a loan that would not otherwise have been available to her. Although a January 2001 certificate of occupancy said that the house had 5 units, Ms. James has consistently said that it has 4. Really? Because over the last 20 years, she described it as a 1 or 2 family, a 1 or 3 family, a 4 family, but never as the 5 family building it's legally recorded as, based on the certificate of occupancy issued back in 2001. This isn't about confusion. It's a decades-long pattern of misrepresentation to get better loan terms and dodge oversight. Utility records shows 6 meters. There are 5 doorbells. A site visit confirmed it all. This isn't a paperwork error. It's a deliberate, systematic fraud.
Scene of the crime with Sam Antar. 4 units plus the basement is 5.
$87 inches. Measure it below grade.
87 inches.
Okay, measure it below grade.
Inches. 16. So clearly the basement unit is above ground. It counts as a floor. This is a 4-story building and not a 3-story.
Quote, this is just following the playbook of his retribution campaign, Mr. Lowell said. It takes nothing to begin an investigation, but that doesn't mean there's anything to investigate. Little has emerged to guide public understanding of the inquiry. Ms. James' lawyers said they had seen few signs that the investigation was progressing, with little indication of subpoenas or witness interviews. Excuse me, little has emerged? We've got sworn land records, contradictory declarations, false unit counts, undisclosed mortgages, perjury witnessed by government employees, multiple financial disclosure violations, quantified personal gain exceeding over $100,000. There's no evidence. There's no signs. There's little documents. There's a document trail a mile long. The only thing missing is accountability. The Times quietly mentions she has also hired several new employees with experience handling congressional inquiries, and she is benefiting from a $10 million appropriation in New York's recently passed budget that provides money for private defense counsel for those targeted by the United States government. So let me translate for you. You, the taxpayer, are footing the bill for Letitia James' private legal defense. The same person who prosecuted others for financial fraud is now using public funds to defend herself against financial fraud. You cannot make this stuff up. Remember what James said when she secured a $450 million judgment against Donald Trump?
After 11 weeks of trial, we showed the staggering extent of his fraud and exactly how Donald Trump and the other defendants deceived banks, insurance companies, and other financial institutions for their own personal gain.
Now let's swap in her own actions. I'll play the lawyer. The scale and scope of Letitia James' fraud is staggering. For years, she falsely declared her residence and property details to enrich herself and cheat the system. Does that sound familiar? Because James built her career by accusing others of financial misrepresentation while doing the exact same thing for decades. This is not about politics. This is about the rule of law and whether it applies to the enforcers. This story is a perfect example of media hypocrisy. When Trump is accused of something, even with flimsy evidence, they plaster it across every front page in America. When Letitia James, a Democrat, faces a federal mortgage fraud referral backed by actual documents, the press circles the wagons and rewrites the story as persecution. This is not journalism. This is damage control wrapped in identity politics. And the New York Times has effectively become Letitia James' personal PR firm. So I'll leave you with two questions. Do you believe Letitia James is being protected by the media because of her politics, especially against Trump? And if this is what the New York Times calls journalism, what else are they helping politicians like Letitia James get away with? Please let me know in the comments. And as always, if honest commentary brings you value, please make sure you like and subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.